And I'd like to take this time to introduce the president of the League of Women Voters, Pat Pesic, will come up and join us.
Thank you. I'd like to begin this event with a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Would you all please stand? Right hand over the heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for coming this evening. I am the president of the League of Women Voters, and it's an organization that was founded when women were given the right to vote in 1920. Those same women that helped to get the right to vote for women thought that it was important for people to be informed and educated when they vote, and they formed an organization called the League of Women Voters. It's no longer just for women. Men and women are members, but we still hold that same mission. We want to have educated, informed voters. Hence, we're having a forum today about something that's really important in your community, and we want to be sure that you have an opportunity to be informed and educated about how it will be run and why. We're very thankful to have you here, and we would like to have you continue to have a favorable opinion of the League of Women Voters. Thank you for participating.
If you're interested in learning more about the League, we have a membership table at the very front when you came in. We have materials, and we're welcoming anyone who would like to become a member as well. In a few moments, we'll invite our first two participants, but I'll ask them if they could go over to the far side, my left. That would be Aaron Starr and Alicia Purcell. While they're doing that, I would like to give a couple of instructions from the League. So first of all, we ask you to please hold any applause unless we ask you to clap. The reason is we want to be fair to all candidates. It's not really a popularity thing, and that allows us more time to get through more questions. I do intend to finish exactly on time. One important note is that the League does not support or oppose individual candidates. We are completely neutral. And tonight is unusual for us. We have so many candidates, so many segments that, unlike normal where we have the questions come from the audience, tonight they were prepared in advance by a committee of the League with some input from some other political scientists, that type of thing. I am the moderator, but I do not live in the district. I'm not involved at all with any of the elections. So this special election is probably, for many of you, the first time there's been a recall in your lifetime in Oxnard. And that means it's a challenging type of ballot. You're going to actually be voting on 8 different things. We handed out, we're grateful to the city of Oxnard for these sample ballots that they prepared in advance for tonight. When you vote, you actually make 2 choices for each of the incumbents. So for the first one, we'll say Mayor Tim Flynn, you either vote yes or no. Do you want to recall him? That means you are unhappy with his performance, you want to recall him, you vote yes. If you like the mayor and want to keep him, then you vote no. Regardless of how you vote, you then need to choose a candidate, one of the other candidates. You may feel that, well, I like the mayor, I don't want to pick one of the others, but if the recall passes, you ought to exercise your right to choose who will be the replacement. You're not obligated, and in fact, if you don't vote for one of them, if you don't vote on the recall, but you do for a challenger, your vote still counts. So some important dates to know are that the sample ballots should be going out around the week of April 9th. One thing to keep in mind is this is a special election, which means there'll be very few polling stations, maybe half of what's usual. So if you're used to always voting in one particular location, please check the back of your sample ballot to see where you are scheduled to vote. That's going to be very important so you don't show up at the wrong place on Election Day. Election Day is May 1st. So if you are a permanent absentee ballot voter, that means you've registered with the county as an absentee voter and you automatically get mailed a ballot. The city will honor that and mail you a ballot as well. That ballot would come out probably around the week of April 9th or a little bit after that. If you're not registered, you still have time. You can go ahead and register, and I'll give you the date later today. But there's plenty of time to still be registered. I think it's around the middle of April. So we'll talk a little more as we go along, but let's go ahead and get started. And at this time, I'll ask Aaron Starr and Alicia Purcell to please come up through the stage. Yes, there they come. Aaron and Alicia, please. You'll come all the way down to match up with your sides. Aaron closest to me and Alicia next to you. So for this segment, Aaron Starr is the lead person proposing the recall. We are giving them special time to make their case. They've obviously put in a lot of effort. We want to allow them to speak their mind about it. There will be a 4-minute opening statement from the two of them, however they plan to do that. Aaron and Alicia, if you look right in front of you, you'll see our 2 timers with the paddles. They'll give you a warning when you have 1 minute left, and then another one when you have 30 seconds left. After that, we have a few questions for them, about 1.5 minutes for each question. Are you, go ahead and get ready. Ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sounds good.
Can everyone hear me?
With that, we'll go ahead and introduce our speaker tonight, Aaron Starr.
Let's recap the final straw that triggered the recall. The City Council adopted an outrageous 87% wastewater rate increase in 2016. We protested and they refused to even discuss it with us. I started the process to put Measure M on the ballot, and the city sued me personally to try and stop me from even gathering signatures. I fought back, won the first round in court, and in the end, 72% of the public voted for Measure M to rescind the rate increase. Rather than compromise, the city continued its lawsuit to try to overturn your vote. And they've spent about $500,000 of ratepayer money to say, your vote doesn't matter. And then they voted to raise rates again.
The city council says, can you hear me better now? Okay, I got to get right on. The city council says they needed to raise your rates for some emergency repairs, but the emergency repairs were only a tiny fraction of the spending plan. One benefit of being sued is that you get to do discovery. So one of the things we discovered was the city's been unlawfully skimming $7 million a year out of the utilities and into the general fund. And then they say, oh, we don't have enough money for these emergency repairs, so we got to raise your rates. There's no choice. Well, we already paid for the emergency repairs. And the repairs weren't done because the council diverted the money that would have paid for them.
Beyond the emergency repairs, the plan is for this $30 million a year utility to spend $750 million. That's pretty excessive. Now, the recommendations for what needed to be done did not come from our city staff. Instead, the city hired 2 engineering consulting firms. And these 2 firms worked together to recommend what to replace. They established the price tags, and they determined what the rates should be to charge for this plan. There was no peer review from any financially disinterested party. And from discovery, we know that one of these firms sent the other a congratulatory email about how much money you were going to pay them. Then, when the city dangled a contract for the first phase of work, we only got bids from those 2 firms.
Incumbents also claim that they saved the city from bankruptcy with their vote. They allege that our bonds were on the verge of being recalled, but both the city manager and an outside financial consultant told the council in a public council meeting that after the initial increase of 35%, the threat of bond recall had been eliminated. But in spite of that knowledge, the council went ahead and instead approved a 75% increase. And they still point the fingers at the bond agencies and say, well, we had to because of them. Nobody on the city council lifted a finger to find the middle ground here.
The incumbents keep saying that the Measure M voters, those of you who voted for Measure M, were irresponsible, and that they are the ones being responsible. We're given the unlawful diversion of funds from the utilities, given the self-dealing opportunities with the consultants, given the council's refusal to even require an annual report of how the utilities are going to spend the money on these projects. Who do you think was being more responsible? You or the council? These issues were not hidden. We were very loudly pointing them out, but the council didn't listen. I'm amused at how the incumbents suddenly become fiscal watchdogs complaining about the cost of democracy. Yet they don't blink an eye spending millions of your dollars each year on outside consultants. Let's replace this rubber stamp body with a financially responsible council that will save millions starting in May. On May 1st, vote yes on the recall, and together we will recall, replace, and reform.
Okay, thank you. We'll hold the applause, please. Thank you. So we'll get more questions in. Aaron, Alicia, I'll let you decide who wants to answer. If you don't need the full minute and a half, then we can just get a few more questions in. But certainly one of the obvious questions, Mr. Starr, you've sponsored Measure M. It was passed by a large majority. It called for rolling back the wastewater rates to what was in place prior to January 2016. So I think a fundamental question is, do you believe that those rates from 2016 are sufficient to fully operate the facility, make the repairs, and pay off the debts?
It was pretty clear that you need to be able to actually get in there and be able to see the actual financial data. That is part of the problem. The problem is that everything is so hidden. I think that once we get new people on the city council, we're going to be able to do the work and figure out what exactly is needed. I've had an opportunity to sit with some of the city staff and the outside consultants between right at the end of 2016, just after that election when they thought that I was elected to the city council. And we were managing to find ways to reduce the costs, and we found all sorts of issues with their model that were just plain wrong. And they proceeded to make some fixes. We had one meeting, and then the attorneys got in the way and said, oh no, don't meet with Mr. Starr anymore. And they clamped that down. And then the city went through their process of starting the whole utility ratepayers advisory panel and recommending huge rate increases all over again. So we need to have the opportunity to really get in there and look at the data and have disinterested parties, not people who have their fingers in the pie, deciding, advising us for what's actually needed.
Thank you. Second question. So one of the arguments given against the recall is the cost, approximately a $500,000 cost to the city, when 3 of the 4 council members would actually be up for re-election in November. So the question for Mr. Starr, Ms. Purcell, is, you've certainly heard this argument before. Why do you feel it was justified to make citizens in the city go through this effort rather than wait 6 months to replace at least 3 of the council members?
So for perspective, keep in mind that the city's total annual budget is in the ballpark of $425 million a year. So the cost of the recall is about what the city spends every 4 hours that it's open. Only a few weeks ago, I watched the council accept a real estate bid that was $200,000 lower than a competing bid. They didn't mind doing that. They think nothing of the cost when it's their decision. The city council had no problem spending $500,000 to sue Aaron over Measure N rather than find some way to compromise. They only complain about the cost when the money is being spent to keep them accountable to the taxpayers. And in fact, recently the mayor's been claiming that the cost is $1 million because he's adding in the cost of the lawsuit to sue Aaron. This council decided to sue Aaron, and they blame Aaron for that cost and say it's a cost of the recall. This election actually should have cost much less than it will, about half of what we're being told now. The city shot itself in the foot to drive the price of it upward. The city made specific decisions that inflated the cost and delayed the time frame of it till it's so close to the primary that the county can't handle both the primary and this election, which means, guess what, we get to hire more consultants, and it costs more. So, we have zero control over those decisions, but they want to point the finger at us for the city's choices.
Okay, thank you. So when we talk about recalls, it's a legitimate exercise of California democracy for people to launch a recall. You go out, you get petitions signed, that type of thing. So Often people think that recalls, Mr. Starr, are launched for malfeasance or perhaps criminal conduct. Somebody was arrested or a serious ethical violation. So curious if you feel that any of the incumbents, have they broken any laws or acted for their own personal gain rather than they were just doing what they thought was best for the city? What's your views?
Right now, I think they're already breaking the law when it comes to the diversion of funds from the utilities into the general fund. That's what the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is telling us, and they wrote Prop 218, so I think they ought to know. But as far as whether someone has to do a criminal act in order to be recalled from office, absolutely not. I mean, think of Gray Davis. Gray Davis was the governor of this state. No one's ever accused him of a crime. The problem was that he was putting in policies that the people didn't like. And that's our opinion here. We believe that the city council was implementing a policy in absolute defiance of what the voters decided. And in the end, you want accountability from your elected officials. There's consequences for bad behavior that should happen as soon as possible. I mean, think about it, if your teenager breaks the rules, the house rules, do you wait 2 years to impose consequences? No, you do it immediately. And by doing this, future council members are going to remember what happened here, and they're not going to be so quick to defy the voters. Also, a lot of damage can be done by incumbents between now and November. They have already entered into one contract designed to tie the hands of future councils on utility rates. I keep watching them wasting money week after week, 200,000 here, $1 million there. The sooner we do this, actually, the better.
Well, that leads into another question then. So Measure M was about rolling back the rates to what was in place back in 2016. When I asked you about in question one, you said once you get in there, you and your team will be able to see more. What happens if the recall succeeds? We have 4 new members on the council, if everyone is recalled. And then when your team gets in there, hallelujah, whatever, you find out that the rates are actually justified. You know, what would happen then if you actually could not roll back the rates? Would that break somewhat of an implied promise?
Well, we already know that the rates are overstated because of just the infrastructure use fee alone. You eliminate that and you eliminate millions of dollars every year just for that. So we know that there's opportunities to economize. I know with the very little time I've spent with staff that we were able to point out flaws in their models and excessive spending. There are opportunities to do a better job. I'm really convinced that we can bring the rates in to make them reasonable. If they have to go up a little bit, then they have to go up a little bit. I mean, we want a safe and fiscally sound wastewater system. And I don't believe that things run on pixie dust. We will do whatever is reasonable. And the problem is that this city council has not exercised effective oversight. They let outside consultants run amok. And if you don't manage your outside consultants, your costs balloon. Remember, these folks are making a lot of money at your expense, these outside consultants. So somebody needs to ask the right questions. You need somebody with a financial background who can do that, someone with a management background that can do that. And unfortunately, the folks on the council today are just not equipped to do that.
Last few seconds I'll add in, you also need your review of these plans, which has not been done today.
Thank you. Well, Aaron, you've put so much effort into this. I'd like to give you a little minute and a half here to sort of reflect a little bit. What have you learned from the community about this whole process, the community's priorities, their concerns, the feedback? We've been quite involved here. What's your reflections on everything?
Wow, it has been an experience, I'll tell you. Alicia and I, we have worked really hard on this. We collected over 12,000 signatures from 3,200 people out of all the signatures that we had. We gathered 68,000 total. And we just...
A lot of conversations with a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. I mean literally, I've literally talked to over 10,000 people. And you hear lots of things. You get a lot of inside scoop along the way. People informing us of the types of corruption that goes on at City Hall are certainly at least mismanagement. I mean, it's just amazing the people that come out of the woodwork when they see us working as hard as we are, really caring about our community, wanting to get things done. People come out and they tell us stuff. And we're talking about people, actually even city staff coming to us, and they're letting us just know, here's the real story. We just can't tell people because we're going to be fired. But they come to us.
And I think, frankly, it inspired a lot of people, or kind of renewed their faith in the process, because lots of times people feel like, well, I'm just one person, what can I do? I have all these complaints, but I can't get anything done about them. And when they see other people banding together and having an impact, I think it really draws people out of the woodwork to inspire them to get involved and work on their issues.
Thank you. I have one last question, but I'm going to ask the four candidates who are not candidates, the four incumbents, Mr. Flynn, Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Madrigal, and Mr. Perello, if you'll start heading over to Cheryl on that side so we can do the quick transition. Aaron, I'll wrap up. The last question for you, I presume. From what I've seen of the reports, as far as the money you've loaned to the campaign, I think many of us would consider it an extraordinary amount of money. I think, and you could correct me, it's at least $90,000. You probably spent more than $100,000 of your own personal money. Obviously, this is deeply important to you. And maybe you could just wrap up why you felt the need to do this.
Yeah. I think the best way to say is that my wife and I are idealists. We really believe in this. We just have a fundamental belief that if the voters vote for something, that needs to be upheld.
Right.
And I'm just frankly shocked that this city council is pretty much saying your vote doesn't matter. It's sort of like, I mean, the voters are the boss and the city council are the employees, and they're being insubordinate. And that's just not tolerable. I mean, can you imagine defying your boss like that? Or if you've got an employee, can you imagine your employee defying you like that? Saying that, hey, I know you gave me an order and I don't like it, so I'm going to do something else. No, they have an obligation to act in good faith, to abide by the voters' wishes. And this is a fundamental core principle. Otherwise, what's the point of having a democracy and having the initiative process if the council members are pretty much saying to you folks, you know what, take a long walk on a short pier. That's just not acceptable to me. And yeah, it's been hugely costly to me. It's been hugely costly with the lawsuit. I mean, I couldn't believe in the beginning that they would sue me personally, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to try and defeat me. I have to spend a lot more than the $90,000 just to find myself in court.
$90,000.
Okay. That's just reported for nothing. The court fees are a lot.
Thank you very much. How about a round of applause for Alicia and Aaron?
Thank you.
Don't go away. We're going to do this lickety-split. We're going to have them step off. We have our next four candidates to come up, the incumbents, and we will get going. Feel free to grab some water. There's water there. Bert, you're number 2. Carmen. Okay, welcome back. So now we have segment 3, which is our 4 incumbents. These are the 4 people that are targeted for the recall. There is a 5th council member, Brian McDonald, but he was not included in the recall effort. So, again, with the instructions, you would, Mayor Tim Flynn, you'll be voting yes or no. Bert Perello, you'll vote yes or no. Carmen Ramirez, yes or no. Oscar Madrigal, yes or no. If you vote yes, that means to recall them. If you vote no, that means you wish to keep them until their term normally ends. These incumbents each have 2 minutes for their opening remarks. We're going to begin with Tim and work our way down. So with that, Tim, the microphone is yours. If you'll stay seated, please, and use that microphone. You can adjust it.
Do I have to stay seated? Okay, all right, okay.
We won't start till he's
I'm a full-time high school teacher, and I tend to stand a lot, just like in the classroom. I want to thank everybody here for showing up, and I have my mom and dad here this evening. I'm very proud of them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is this recall, this special election. It's not a regular election, as most of you know. And many people think it is a regular election, and we should be debating the issues as candidates. But the real reason we're here is that these 4 incumbents are being subjected to what I believe to be a fraudulent recall election. Fraud is deceit. Fraud is misrepresentation. And fraud is not telling the people the real truth. The real truth is that for the equivalent of this Kentucky Fried Chicken meal, over 6 years, the equivalent price of this Kentucky Fried Chicken meal is what your rate is going to go up. And that is to provide for the health and safety of you in this community. This recall election, as Mr. Marin has stated, is costing you, the taxpayers, $500,000. We've spent over $500,000 more just in legal costs. That would pay the city manager's salary in 1 year and 2 assistant city managers. The bottom line is that you owe, and this city owes you the truth. If I were gathering signatures and told you, do you want your rates lowered? Sign here, please. That is deceit. That is misleading. And that's why this 72% of the public was misled. They were sold a bill of goods that was simply false.
Thank you. Our next incumbent is Bert Perello. 2 minutes.
My thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this important debate at Pacifica High School, free of charge to all comers. And thanks to all Oxnard voters who took the time out of their busy personal and family schedules to show up tonight to hear for themselves the differing political views regarding the important issues surrounding this ill-advised, ill-timed, expensive, and unnecessary special recall election. Recall elections are meant to remove corrupt office holders, not responsible ones. I am a responsible representative. I am a fighter for the people. And like my flyer says, I have the political scars to prove it. I successfully led the City Council fight to recover $68,000 in unlawful supplemental retirement benefit payments made by former City Manager Ed Sotelo. I helped save the city millions of dollars by providing a decisive third vote, opposing the ill-advised and shockingly expensive proposed settlement for former City Manager Ed Sotelo's bogus lawsuit. I successfully spearheaded the Council's adoption of a first-ever whistleblower policy to combat government waste, fraud, and abuse. I opposed hiring past City Manager Greg Nyhoff without performance standards and job evaluation metrics included in his employment contract. And I will oppose any effort in the future. I oppose the ill-advised waiver of a large debt owed to the city and the Sweetheart Deal sale of city-owned property in Heritage Square at a sale price that was $315,000 below the fair market value established by the appraiser in 2016. Tonight I ask you to carefully consider my proven performance record in the Oxnard City Council as a fighter for the people. And after you do, I ask you to vote no on the Perello recall on May 1st. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Our next incumbent is Carmen Ramirez.
Thank you, League of Women Voters and Oxnard High School District for providing this forum.
I want to ask you to please support your current council. I'm proud to be here with them. Are you a one-issue voter? Please don't be. There's a lot at stake here. While we don't always agree on everything, all 5 of us unanimously voted to avoid financial chaos, which would have cut public services, including public safety. We raised wastewater rates, which had not been done properly for the last 15 years before any of us got there. This recall is costing you $500,000 when you could have made your voice known in June or November. You should praise our city council for making hard, necessary decisions to avoid bankruptcy. The recall organizer himself said the rates should be raised 35% the first year. You should also know that we created a program to help those who need help paying their utility bills. Please apply. We invested $30 million in streets and roads in Oxnard. We unanimously stopped a power plant, unnecessary, on our beach, whose only purpose was to gouge you for unneeded electricity. We took back our Del Norte Municipal Recycling Center from a private company, which saved over $2 million taxpayer dollars the first year. We finally have a clean audit that lets us make the best decisions for the people of Oxnard. We have weathered the storms. The sun is starting to shine on Oxnard. Don't let Oxnard slip back into the dark past. Don't be misled. Get the facts. So easy to get up here and say anything. I have so much I could say about what went before. There's no time. Don't be misled. Vote no on the recall on all of us.
Thank you. Our next incumbent is Oscar Madrigal. 2 minutes. Does it work? I think you're on.
Hello, my name is Oscar Madrigal. I was elected in November of 2016. I am the newest council member here in the city of Oxnard. And, you know, since I've been on, it has been quite an experience. It's one issue right after the other. You have to hit the road running. And, you know, being a candidate, I always stated, I will do what is best for the city currently and in the future. This decision that we made as a council, my decision was based not only what would be best for residents at the time, but what would be best for residents in the future. I was not going to kick the can down the road. I was not going to be like previous people serving on council. I did not want to be that person 10, 15 years down the road who was irresponsible on council. That is the reason why I voted the way I did. This council, you know, we don't always get along, we don't always agree. However, we keep what is best for the city as our top priority. My last quick 30 seconds, you know, my support staff from the beginning has always been my family. I want to thank them for being here today, my 2 sisters. And, you know, growing up here in the city of Oxnard, I've seen change. I went to school at Channel Islands High School. I worked at this school for about 7 to 8 years. You know, I consider this to be one of my homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Bert, we're going to start the questions with you. We'll ask the questions to all 4 of you so we can get your responses. And Bert, the first question, which I think is an argument you've heard from the proponents, but Measure M was on the ballot in November 2016. It passed by a large margin. Called for the repeal of the city's wastewater rates that were adopted in January 2016. And one argument for the recall is that the council ignored the wishes of the voters. So the question is, why did you not listen to the voters and repeal the increases? That's for you, Bert. We'll start with you and rotate through everyone else.
Okay, thank you.
And as a reminder, you have 1.5 minutes.
I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever,
I apologize, Bert. You have 1 minute for a response. We'll let you start over. Yeah, we'll have you start over and do 1 minute. So,
Thank you.
no booing the moderator, please. Go ahead, Bert.
I appreciate the opportunity to answer this question, because until you're sitting in the seat, until you go behind closed session, until you get the decisions that have been made by the experts, the people that are hired by the city of Oxnard as experts, financial experts, engineering experts, outside consultants, citizen ratepayer review boards, and they tell you you have to make this decision, even though the voters did pass Measure M. You have to make this decision because the tiger in the room is Standard & Poor's and the banks. They're going to come after your bonds. We were technically in default 7 consecutive years, our financial advisor told us. They'd never told the council before, but they tell us then. What would you do, ladies and gentlemen? Let the city go broke? We have 2 people, the originator of this organization and one other elected official, Mr. Molina, that claim it'll never happen. I'm not going to roll the dice with the public's welfare. If I want to gamble on my own, I'll do that, but not with the public's welfare. I made the best decision that I had with the facts and the data that I had at the time in the area that I needed to make the decision.
Thank you. Carmen, same question to you. Why did you not honor the wishes of the voters and vote to repeal the increase?
Thank you. I'm going to agree with everything Councilman Porello said. When you are hearing from your financial consultants that you do not challenge Measure M, a very simple question. I totally get why people would sign it or vote for it. Do you want your utilities lowered? Of course you do. What you didn't hear was if the rates were lowered, we were going to be in default. It was going to affect our general fund. It was going to affect all city services. We could be in bankruptcy. People would lose jobs. There would not be services for the community. What are you supposed to do? You have to do the right thing for the future. And I get it that people aren't happy about it, but please get the facts. Understand that 5 of us, 3 of us running again in November, would never have done this if we didn't absolutely have a gun to our head. And we did. And I believe we have done the right thing for our city now and in the future. We're going to have a safe sewer system. We're not going to be fined.
Thank you. And Oscar, your explanation for why you voted, why you did not honor the voters' wishes and repeal the increase?
First of all, I totally agree with what the 2 previous speakers stated. And as I stated in my original statement, I was going to do what was best for the city now and what was best for the future. I don't enjoy paying more for my utility bill. I don't think anyone here does. Unfortunately, it's something that, we have to do because it is what is best for the city. Before this, nobody was complaining because we had probably a lower bill than the majority of the rest of the county. So, unfortunately, it was one or the other. I was not going to risk the future of the city on this particular decision.
Thank you. Tim, we'll wrap up this question with you. Same question.
Thank you very much. Imagine those people that were gathering signatures if they told you, could you please sign this petition and help us bankrupt the city? Imagine how many people do you think would have signed that petition? How many people would have voted for Measure M had they known that their vote would directly lead to the bankruptcy of the city? No one in this city, I would contend, that voted for Measure M actually understood that that's exactly where the city was heading. And, the recall proponents, one of them in particular is an accountant. I believe he's smart enough to know that the city indeed would have gone bankrupt, and I can only presume, him knowing and him being smart enough to know that the city would have gone bankrupt, that actually is his real intention all along.
Okay, thank you. Carmen, we're going to start the next question with you. Carmen, as you're probably aware, other cities routinely raise utility rates to pay for ongoing cost increases, and some cities certainly charge more than Oxnard, although every city is a unique situation. So, Carmen, why do you think Oxnard's increases generated such a firestorm of controversy, and what could be done to avoid controversies like this in the future?
Well, one of the things we have to do is stop talking in percentages. I have a 4-bedroom home. My husband and I and a number of animals live there. We have free trees. My increase in sewer portion of the bill was $5. Over the life of this, it's going to be ultimately 20 in 5 years. I think that's worth it to have a sewer system that works. Why is it? Because we're talking in percentages. People don't really understand the true cost of keeping a system safe. We have workers who were in danger of falling into the tanks. We have trucks that have gone through the manholes. We are in deteriorating situation, and as a Councilman Madrigal said, we have in the past, not this council, we took it on the chin, we're taking it on the chin right now. We did not kick the can down the road. We have to have our people understanding the finances of the city and not being misled by facile descriptions of our situation.
Thank you. Oscar, same question to you. Why do you think this created such a controversy, and what can be done to avoid those controversies in the future?
Growing up in La Colonia neighborhood, this is a blue-collar city. People work hard, people have multiple jobs to get by. Everyone here grows up, they know growing up that life is hard, life is difficult, and when you see a raise, you know, most people are living paycheck to paycheck. Those extra dollars are going to affect you. So when that happened, of course there was anger. Of course people were upset. And I think, you know, it takes better communication from the city to tell residents what happened. Unfortunately, you know, I don't think the city did a good enough job in that, and it just created a whirlwind, and that's where we're at today.
Thank you. Tim, same question to you.
Well, you know, when you're told that your rates are going to go up by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and it's not made clear to you that it's over a 6-year period, it's not made clear to you that it's $24 max a month over a 6-year period, and when someone talks about 70%, 80%, and hundreds of dollars, people simply panic. And that's why I say this recall is based on deceit. It's based on fraud. People were misled in this city. And the bottom line is that now I believe people have a better understanding not only of the needs of the city, but they have a better understanding that what this directly would have led to is not only the imminent failure of the sewer system, but the financial collapse of the city of Oxnard.
Thank you.
Could you please repeat the question?
Certainly. So other cities routinely raise utility rates to pay for ongoing cost increases, and some cities certainly charge more than Oxnard, although many are unique situations. So why do you think Oxnard's increase generated such a firestorm of controversy, and what can be done to avoid those controversies in the future?
It's a combination of history. People don't pay enough attention to what's going
Hold
on.
a little closer to you.
And I want to clarify, the other cities that have had increased sewer rates, tremendous sewer rates, because they had to build a new sewer plant. They faced the music that the city of Oxnard is having to face. They were not in compliance with the rules of the road. Santa Paula and Fillmore are the two classic examples. The perfect storm is the city of Oxnard has had issues exposed. When an FBI comes in, a DA, and they shut down City Hall. When people leave the city of Oxnard. When the city manager, the former city manager, Mrs. Tello, sues us after being put on leave. When things happen, people do not have total trust. And nobody wants to pay more for anything. I don't want to pay more for anything. But when there comes a time that you got to pay to play. You want to flush that toilet, you want it taken care of and not to damage anybody, you're going to have to pay to play. And you trust the people that were elected by the residents, and those elected people trust the people that are hired to come up with the answers. And the people did not. Thank you.
Oscar, we'll start the next round with you, and this is a question, give you a chance to reflect on everything. So, Oscar, if the residents vote no on the recall, voting no would mean you would keep your seat. Will your perspective on governing change? Will you handle utility rate increases differently going forward? How will this affect you?
If I have the privilege of being here after the recall election, you know, I've always put residents first. This isn't about me. This isn't necessarily, you know, I'm just in a position. You know, I'm not here to move on. I'm not here to do anything. I'm here for my community. I was born and raised here. I love this city, and I would continue to put residents first.
Thank you. Tim, same question to you. How will this impact you going forward? What's your perspective? Does it change? How will you handle rate increases going forward?
Well, I'll say one thing. I believe in compromise, and it was stated up here that there was no attempt at a compromise. In fact, I did so publicly. I offered Mr. Starr a proposal. I made a proposal without consent of the council to actually do away with this fee that he says is illegal and the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association says is illegal, which is the infrastructure use fee. I offered to him to see if he was willing to compromise publicly on camera. Mr. Starr, will you accept this rate increase to do away with the infrastructure use fee? He consulted with his wife. He came back and said no. What I've understood from this is that most people want the best outcome in the community. I'll continue to serve people. I'll continue to walk door to door. I'll continue to listen to the people and be honest about making the right decision.
Thank you. Bert, same question. So if the voters vote no and you retain your seat, how will your perspective change? How will you handle increases in the future?
My perspective has been jaded by this, and I hope that it doesn't change much. But I do believe in a few things, and those few things are this. I got taught as an early age, my family. Health, safety, and welfare is really important. You don't screw somebody to take advantage. You're responsible and you're accountable to your family. And if you're ever handling somebody else's affairs, you'd be extremely helpful and extremely accountable. The public's health, safety, and welfare is something there's no compromising on. There have been decisions made by past councils. I do not sit up here with any individual that I feel is corrupt. Not one. We have disagreed. I've been an instrument in disagreeing with them. But I don't believe that any one of them is corrupt. And I'll be damned if I'm going to go out of this business on being called corrupt. If I lose, I lose, but I'm going to do my damnedest to win. And if I decide to run again, I intend to fight the same way. There are kids that I've met recently at a Little League and one is a kindergarten.
And I have to stop you there, Bert. Maybe later you can get that in. Carmen, we'll wrap up with you on this same question.
I ran for office here to serve the people of this city in their needs. I felt this city had been neglected, in a lot of ways abused by lots of different entities, and I was there to serve, and I'm still going to be there to serve. I hope to retain my seat. Our city's engaged in lots of important modernization, and part of it is better communication with our residents, better services to our residents, but we only have so much money. There's a lot of wants, not all our needs. We have to really make our priorities when we're not an affluent city. But the basic things we always, and including anybody else who gets elected, you do not want people there who are going to just take the easy road. You want people who are going to do hard choices. That's what I've done, and that's what my colleagues here have done. Please vote no on the recall.
Okay, we're going to begin the last question. Before I do, I'm going to ask those candidates for mayor, Mr. Miguel Lopez, Maureen Navarro, Aaron Starr, Larry Stein, and Robert Sumter. You'll start making your way over to Cheryl on that far side. Okay, Tim, we're going to wrap up with you.
Thank you.
Regardless of the recall results, whether you're retained or recalled, what do you believe are the top priorities for the council over the next 6 months?
Well, the top priorities of this city council are to be stewards of the city's finances and to make sure that we live within our means. That's first and foremost. Secondly, and I think this is extremely important, we, ladies and gentlemen, are not yet out of this morass. We are not yet in a situation where we can say, although the city's finances are better than they've been in decades, we are not yet out of peril. And we need to make sure that the public buys in with the future of this city and the leadership that this council has shown. We, ladies and gentlemen, are the first council, I would contend, in decades that has our hearts grounded in this community. And we have our best interest of the people at mind, and I will continue to fight for what I believe is Oxnard's best interest. Believe in Oxnard.
Thank you. Bert, same question to you. What do you think are the top priorities for the council?
Top priorities of the council, very similar to what the mayor said. The city of Oxnard is not out of the woods money-wise. Contrary to whatever you may believe or think, you need to know where we stand, just like the 5 council members need to know exactly where we stand. And right now, it's a work in progress. The next thing is, we need a city manager. We need a city manager that's going to be accountable to the council and to the residents. And the process of getting that city manager is a very big priority. And then we need to do the very best we can for the residents of Oxnard. Health, safety, and welfare is a big thing. It's been mentioned before by other candidates. It's a blue-collar city. There's more wants, there's more needs, than there's money to pay for it. Somebody's going to have to make the hard decision what we can and can't do. You cannot promise your children everything in the Sears and Roebuck's catalog at Christmas and give them nothing. It has been done in this community. You cannot do that. And people believe that when they're promised, they can receive. We're not Daddy Warbucks up here.
Thank you, Bert. Carmen,
I'm gonna agree. A first priority is making sure we're financially stable, and that's really what's at stake here in the rates for all of our utilities. We have to hire a new city manager, and the things that I think are priorities too after that, after we get stable, continue to be more stable, get our credit rating up. Our credit rating was really teetering here because of this Measure M, the litigation, the political instability. We have to get stable for your benefit. We have to focus on our youth, making sure they have options other than violence, and we're seeing that in our city. We have to work with all of our partners in business and education to make better options for our young people. We have to do something about our homeless situation. We have many priorities. We have little resources. We need all of our community to be engaged in solving these problems. Government is not always the solution, but the community is going to provide those solutions.
thank you. And Oscar, we'll wrap up with you.
Since I am last, I kind of, everything that was said, kind of just go a little bit off of everybody. But realistically, yes, financially, the city, we are not out of the woods, the city could go in many different directions, and we need to make sure it's the right financial direction. We currently do not have a city manager. We need to hire one. We need to not only hire a city manager, we need to hire the right city manager. The city, residents, needs, the youth, over the last month, there's been an uptick in violence in our city. We need to provide services for the youth. There needs to be a strategy, not necessarily coming from the city, but we need to partner with people to get things done. We have the homeless issue, especially in the downtown. We need to get a hold of the homeless issue. Unfortunately, it is pretty much a statewide issue.
Thank you very much. How about a round of applause for all 4 of these incumbents, please? And we'll get the challengers up here from there. I know you're all impressed with my skill right there. Hey, big bucks to do that. So, welcome again. A couple of little updates. So again, the election is May 1st. You are voting to either recall or keep. You vote yes if you want to recall, no if you want to keep. Either way, you should vote for a challenger. Now we're going to hear from the 5 challengers for mayor, and you can decide who you'd like to support. Again, sample ballots will go out around April 9th. You have until April 16th to register. And if you want to request an absentee ballot, you can contact the Oxnard City Clerk. So the candidates for this round have 1 minute for opening statements, and then they'll have 1 minute for as many questions as we can get in. So with that, we'll go ahead and begin with Miguel Lopez.
Thank you so much. Definitely want to thank the League of Women Voters, thank all of you here with us tonight, those of you who are watching with the live stream with KADY. I have to say, I appreciate you taking the time to explain how the ballot's going to be. Where voters have 2 options. The first, yes, to either recall the incumbents, and whether you choose to or not, you also still have the option for your second vote, which is who up here would you vote for in case your incumbent does not survive the recall. So thank you so much for that, because I definitely think we need a lot more ballot education information out there for voters. On the recall, I share the mixed feelings that many share. I have said before that it is a waste and it is unnecessary, especially when we have the June primary 34 days later. However, it is happening. For me, this recall is more than just about Measure M. It's about our public safety, and we've seen increasing and evolving challenges with that. Despite our police department being recognized with a James Q. Wilson Award for community policing, we have evolving challenges. Week by week we hear about shootings, we hear about the crime going on, and so we're here to talk about that. And again, I thank you for your support and for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Miguel. Our next challenger is Robert Sumter.
Good evening. I'm Robert, and I'm thankful to be here tonight. I was supposed to be on vacation this week, but circumstances brought me back to Oxnard. I'm not a lifelong resident of Oxnard, but I chose to live in Oxnard. I came up here from Whittier, where I lived comfortably for 30 years, and I took a job, which I chose to take that job up here. So I choose to live in this community. I choose to be your representative. I have ran in the past, and some of you probably know that. I have ran 4 other times. And the biggest compliment I've got out of that was, I bring questions to the table. And I said, thank you very much, because that's what I think everybody needs to do, is question your leaders, whoever they are. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Our next challenger is Aaron Starr.
I've lived in Ventura County my entire life.
Bring the mic a little closer, Aaron.
Can you hear me?
That's better. Closer is better.
I guess we can start over.
We will.
Thank you.
We're fair. We're very fair up here.
Appreciate that. I've lived in Ventura County my entire life. My wife and I proudly call Oxnard home. But we're disappointed in Oxnard's failed leadership. I'm not a politician. I've never held elected office. I am a concerned citizen who's sincerely troubled by what is going on at City Hall. If you elect me as mayor, I will fight abuse of utility rights. I will make sure our police have the resources they need to protect us from violent criminals. I'll use my experience as a certified public accountant to help small businesses create more jobs. I want to make our city council a volunteer position and subject them to term limits. I want to fix our broken permit system and our crumbling streets. Don't assume that all of us running for mayor supported Measure M. Not every candidate here is opposed to the utility rate increases. If that issue is important to you, please be sure to ask them. You know where I stand. Please vote for Aaron Starr for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next challenger is Lauren Stein.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. Well, I'm a degreed accountant. I'm not a CPA, but I do taxes. I do a lot of cost analysis. I've been a private citizen in Oxnard since 1985. The last 25 years, I've studied the city's finances. And the utility rate increases are not proper. city continues to break the law as it pertains to utility rates, especially with water and wastewater. Right now, a large portion of our water rates are based upon the fact we're not getting the fair share shake on the service that we're paying for. We're paying for water we're not getting. The wastewater fund's not being paid for the water they're generating. If the water is being charged correctly to the people using wastewater, the water fund paid the wastewater fund for its utility rates, yes, the city would be solvent. Don't let the previous candidates say they had no choice. We were solvent. We had the ability to pay our debts. As long as we're able to pay our debts, we're not going to go bankrupt. Vote for me.
Thank you, and we'll wrap up with Lori Navarro.
Good afternoon, thank you everybody. I bring to the table a business acumen. I was a business contractor for the city of Oxnard for 42 years. I worked for Oxnard PD, ATF, DEA, you name it, any important law enforcement agency I worked for. That's why I've never run before, because of a conflict of interest. What we have today is that the largest city between LA and San Jose has been, they're so mismanaged, not only by our current city council, by previous city councils. We need to hire locally, we need to hire local people, so we can get rid of this debt that we have on all the retirements. And we need to hold managers accountable, and we haven't. Later on, I'll tell you where I've seen the mismanagement, not just in the water, but lack of interest from our own people that live in Oxnard, that work for the city.
Thank you. Robert, we're going to start with you. So the recall started with the wastewater hikes. If you were elected mayor, will you fulfill the promise of Measure M and repeal all the rate hikes since 2016? And if yes, what budget changes will you make to handle any shortfall if there is one? So two parts. Will you vote to repeal the rate hikes? And if so, and it turns out that there's a shortfall, how will you make up for it?
I really can't answer the second part of that because I do not know what the finances are 100%. But I do know that the wastewater Measure M, it needs to be honored by what the public asked for. If not, we need to go back to these committees that Aaron Starr was on and re-look at the things that they came up with and the way they presented it to the city council, to the staff, to the people. They weren't even listened to. But anyhow, back to the other part, we will find a way. I'm sure we're resilient. We are a strong community. We've got a lot of community pride here. We will survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, same question to you, and hopefully you can be specific about this. If you are elected, will you repeal the wastewater hikes? And if there is a shortfall that you did not expect, how will you make up for it?
One of the problems is that the city council decided to adopt a letter of credit agreement that prohibits us from lowering rates ever again. And we have to first work on getting that letter of credit replaced in order to even do that. We need to do a lot of analysis of what it's going to actually take to cost, what it costs to actually run this facility. Just sitting down with staff and the outside consultants, we were able to figure out that at least at the initial step, that a 21% rate increase was going to be sufficient. I think we could have gotten down much further than that. There's just a lot of work to do. It's hard to give you a really good answer until somebody actually is able to get in there and actually look at the books. But I can tell you that my experience as a manager is that I have ways of making sure that we have the best productivity we can get. I've been accused of stretching a quarter so far that George Washington Brutus, and we're going to use that. I'm going to use that talent to try and get the best possible outcome.
Thank you. Lawrence, same question to you. Will you vote to repeal the rate hikes?
Before I repeal the rate hikes, I want proper analysis performed. Right now, we residents, we 44,000 commercial and residential users of water are paying for water we're not receiving. Our cost of importing water has gone from $14 million to $21 million. The City Council voted to approve to spend $12 million to build a private pipeline to service 3 private entities with no skin in the game. Instead of spending $12 million on this pipeline, they could have used the money to build storage wells for a great water program. I think the Great Water Program is the key to our financial recovery. If we build the Great Water Program with the ASR wells and store water, and the people of Great Water will stabilize our water rates, and the water company, the water fund pays the wastewater fund for its product, I think the rates will be stabilized. I don't see any rate increases necessary if the city just follows the law. Charge the people using Great Water what it costs them, and the water fund pay for the wastewater fund for the water it costs them. I think the rates will be stabilized.
Thank you. Maury, same question to you. Will you vote to repeal? And if there is a shortfall, how will you make up for it?
Yes. And the thing is, when we started the recycling water program, we failed to have a vessel to hold that water. Recently, we just injected water at Oxnard High School, the old Oxnard High School, and we're injecting the water that cannot be sold or used. What's the sense of having all that water if you haven't got the vessel to hold it in? The other thing is, I was made known to me that we have $40 million in one of the other enterprise funds. The MRF right now is currently $40 million in the black. Borrow from one enterprise fund to fix the other one, and keep an eye on it, control it.
Thank you. Miguel, same question to you. Will you vote to repeal the wastewater hikes? And what will you do to make up for a shortfall if there is one?
So in 2016, can you hear me? Hello? No, perfect. Perfect that you can hear me now. I should say, well, in 2016, what I said then was that the wastewater rate and enterprise had been neglected for too long and it did need additional funding. However, my recommendation then, and my recommendation still stands now, is that I would proceed with the proposed water enterprise rate adjustment that is absolutely necessary. It's not the rate that ended up passing. It could be something that we can get by with less. So what I would do, and what I said then, is to basically, as mayor, propose a comprehensive peer review, as we heard earlier that hasn't been done, of city and consultants' recommendations, of the master plans, of the rate studies, of Prop 218 interpretations, and all the other documents before taking any further action. I think before we were between a rock and a hard place. I think that this recall petition process and the recall election has put us between a mountain and a hard place, an even more difficult situation. But what we need to do is do the responsible thing. So it's going to be hard to repeal because there is dire attention that is needed, but we would revisit it the process that I've outlined back then.
Stop you there. Okay, Aaron, we're going to start with you on this next question. So Oxnard is the largest city in Ventura County. It's about the 20th largest city in the state of California. Wow. Aaron, what skills and experiences do you have that make you feel qualified to lead the city? Have you ever been elected to public office or been appointed to any city commissions?
Well, I'm a certified public accountant. I'm a manager for a billion-dollar company, very profitable company. We do very, very well. One of the things that I've noticed about this city is that we do not use any metrics for our managers. Our managers are not held accountable to anything that I can discern. And if you want to get something, when it comes to management, what gets measured is what gets done. The problem is there are no measurements. Once we can establish measurements, we can get better performance. Because right now, frankly, we do not get good performance from City Hall. When you look at the quality of our streets, you look at how well we maintain things, we've been getting a raw deal for years because frankly, we've just had a huge management problem. I can bring that skill to the table.
Thank you. Lawrence, same question to you, and I want to emphasize the question is what skills and experiences do you have that make you feel qualified, and have you been elected to public office or appointed to any city commission? Tell us about yourself, Lawrence.
Thank you. I have run numerous times. I've never lost an election. I've never voted any either. When I run for office, I bring issues. I know the city's issues. I've been studying city issues for 20 years. One of the things I'd like to do is change the way the agenda is being held. Start having more efficient meetings. If we have closed sessions on Mondays, we have a real meeting of the matter, our study sessions and public hearings on Tuesdays. We have our information consent and ceremonial encounters on alternate Thursdays. That will make things more efficient. I also want to have a budget process in place where the city council controls the budget. I'd like to see a free budget presented to the city council. I'd like to see a general fund budget for $115 million, a general fund budget for $120 million, and a general fund budget for $125 million. The city council should insist, and I do insist on certain things being done. I would insist the city council be presented options every time something comes before us when considerable amounts of money being spent.
Thank you. Maury, same question to you. What are your skills and experiences? Have you ever been elected to public office or appointed to a commission?
I've been appointed to the planning commission for the city of Oxnard, and the 6 years that I was there, I only had one decision overturned on me. That was the BMW plant on Guanime Road. The other thing is that I bring is a business acumen to hire local people, and for the redevelopment, I was one of the people that held the nail when the governor shut down the redevelopment agency. I was one of the people that did that. And we need to get rid of the 51 properties that the city of Oxnard owns around the Plaza Park, get rid of the old Oxnard High School, get rid of the Gonzales and the Boulevard, Nita and 6th Street, Nita and 7th Street. Get rid of, the city has no business in the real estate business.
Thank you. Miguel, same question to you. Tell us about your skills and experiences.
Thank you. Well, I think as people recognize, I've had great success in government, in education, with public service, working with our private sector, and in nonprofit management. As a PhD, I think I understand Oxnard's most complex issues and challenges. I do. I have been on the inside doing good. I've been recognized for it. So my experience goes back not only as a lifelong resident, but as a community organizer, really going out there to building the support that is needed behind Oxnard's greatest needs, whether they're public safety, whether they are just parks and recreation. I've done the work at the local level, I've been an advocate at the state level, and I've worked at the highest levels of government in Washington, D.C., where I say time and again that what I saw and experienced was dysfunction of government at the highest of levels. All of that experience I bring back to Oxnard to really be able to move us forward, to put Oxnard first, and to do what's in the best interest of everyone here, our families, and the next generation.
Thank you. Robert, same question to you. Tell us about your skills and experiences.
Okay, as I said earlier, I have ran for mayor 4 other times. Hopefully somebody voted for me. I did get a few votes, which was nice. What do I bring as far as management? Management, I was a manager for numerous car dealerships. My tenure was a little over 12 years with Volvo. I was here in the Ventura area with Volvo here in Whittier for 12 years, or 10 years down there. I lost. Anyway, I'm hoping that I at least get 1 vote. Because believe it or not, I do not vote for myself. I don't have that kind of ego. And yes, I am a politician, because even though I haven't been elected, I'm up here running for office. So I was reminded I'm a politician.
Thank you very much. Lawrence, we're going to start with you. This is a question that's for all of you, of course. Lawrence, it's possible that 4 new council members could take their seats before June 1st. And if you are the mayor, you would have to lead this transition while dealing with significant issues, including such things as affordable housing, the decommissioning of 2 power plants, supporting local business, homelessness, reinvigorating downtown. So what are your views on these challenges, and how will you lead the council?
I lead by asking opinion and getting consensus and presenting ideas. First thing we need to do is have control of the budget. The city council should be controlling the money, making decisions that staff is forcing down city council's throats. There are many issues involved. The police department of public safety is a very important part of our city. They take over 50% of the general fund. We heard last night at city council meeting they want X more dollars just for police cars. How many other departments are getting new vehicles? There needs to be equitably throughout the entire city departments. I plan to bring a level of ethics, accountability. That's the type of person I am. I want to hold people accountable to ethical standards. We need to be able to trust our financial system. We need to be able to trust our financial numbers. We don't have a staff that seems to be giving us viable numbers. I have requests for information going back 7 months based on last budget hearing. So again, I'm an accountable person. I look at accountability.
Maury, same question to you. You, if you're elected mayor, you may be dealing with issues like affordable housing, local business, homelessness, the other ones I mentioned. What will you do to lead the council?
I did a lot of work with economic development, and the main thing we need to do is increase our sales taxes. And by doing that is building empty buildings in the downtown. Everybody focuses on downtown, but we have other areas. I started the South Oxnard Business Association years ago, and simply because we needed to keep our sales taxes up. And without that, that's our basis for our city. And we need to do that, and by that is we need to quit giving buildings away and allowing people to use them for free as friends of the city council. And I know that for a fact. Short story, hold people accountable. I was watching people from the city cherry picking through the trash cans and not taking out the trash, but taking out the recyclables. I rest my case.
Thank you. Miguel, same question to you. If you are elected and the other council members are elected, there could be 4 of you that are new. How will you lead and how will you deal with some of these major issues like affordable housing, power plants, homelessness, etc.?
I think that that's actually the foundation of our campaign, about working together, about working in collaboration, and about working in partnership. Call me and my generation idealist, but I really do believe in the theory of shared resources, that together, when we pool our resources or all pull a little bit in, we're able to have a more profound impact and a bigger change. And so that's what I've been doing. That's what I did when I returned to the city of Oxnard to work with the then Chief of Police, Jerry Williams. We built those community partnerships. We created partnerships with the private sector, with businesses, with philanthropy, and so it's more of the same. Thus far during the campaign, I've done that. I've gone out there and have gotten the support of not only public safety, who supported me last time. I was happy also to receive the support of folks in labor, and then more recently, many of you may have seen the support of the Chamber of Commerce. These are all important stakeholders who need to be at the table, and for whatever reason or another have not been at the table, but we need to work together to tackle Oxnard's greatest challenges. We also need to work with our state and federal representatives. That position was eliminated in the budget that Tim Flynn brought together in 2013-14, and we need to work with our state and federal representatives to bring that money back home.
Thank you, thank you. Bob, or Robert, we'll wrap up with you, or I'm sorry, not wrap up, but we'll hear your thoughts as well as far as how you would lead.
Okay. I brought it up at the last forum. We're only going to be, if we're elected, which I hope I am, we're only going to be in office for approximately 21 weeks, and that's on the outside. So we're going to hit the ground running. There's probably going to be 2, maybe 3 people that are going to be new to the forum there in the city chambers. We're going to have to work together. There's no way around it. And that's one of the things that I bring in my team. When I develop a team, I look for people that have positive outlooks and ways that we can grow together. That way we can face homelessness. We can face the downtown blight. We can take care of issues. We need to work as a team. And if I can't bring together a team, then I don't deserve to be re-elected in November, because I plan on being elected this time and in November. Thank you.
Thank you. So Aaron, again, the question is, if there's 4 new council members, you're the mayor, you've got to lead us through this transition. How will you deal with these issues like affordable housing, homelessness, the reinvigorating downtown, etc.?
I have a reputation for getting things done. I think people tend to underestimate me, and voila, we wind up with something qualified for the ballot. I know how to run a meeting, and I've run hundreds of meetings. And my wife, by the way, is a professional registered parliamentarian, so she can always set me straight if I'm doing something wrong. But I aim to achieve consensus during these meetings. I think there's always something that a council can agree upon if we just work it through. But one thing we really need desperately is we need good information. And today, this city council is not even given monthly financial statements. Imagine running a business without a monthly financial statement. You really can't do it very well. So that's a huge priority. We need to actually straighten out our permit system. It's completely broken. We need to put metrics into City Hall. We need to have budgets, real budgets where we're not just rubber stamping decisions.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the candidates for City Council to start making your way over there as we get ready for our last question here. There are 7 of you here. If you'll please make your way over to Cheryl. Thank you. So let's see, Maury, I think we'll wrap up with you on the questions tonight. If the city has not selected a new city manager by the time you take office, what are some of those skills that you would look for in a potential manager? And maybe share a little bit about your perspective of the duties of the city manager versus the duties of a council.
Well, the city manager serves at the mercy of the city council, at the whim of the council. And I think, and I fully believe we have 2 people right now in staff that are capable of doing the job. There isn't any need for us to bring foreigners from other cities to tell us how this city is being run. We need to run our city with people that are local and keep everything local. And we have the able-bodied people, and that way we would get rid of all this unfunded retirements that we currently have. It's been crazy. We bring people from out of town, and I work with several city managers, and I guarantee you that. I work with all of them. And Mr. Neaha was probably one of the ones that was hardest to work with.
Thank you. Miguel, same question to you. If we have to hire a new city manager, if it hasn't been done yet, what are you looking for in their skills? And how do you balance the duties of the city manager versus the duties of the council?
Great question. I basically do what I do now when I hire any candidates or want to bring a person to join our team. I clearly recognize what our vision is, what our goals are, what our priorities are, and even what needs our immediate attention. I would certainly look at the individual's background, their education, their preparation, the record of achievement, and what qualifies them. I would look at their strengths and their weaknesses, because Oxnard itself, I think many of us would agree, is not a textbook study. We are our own case study, with just many special, I'll say, challenges. At the same time, we have many unique opportunities. And so I would certainly look at someone who has strengths in building a team, and quite frankly, at how they've managed conflict in the past. But we need someone who is dynamic, who's innovative, who is committed for the long haul. Perhaps someone who is just at the point of their career to do extraordinary things, and that's the type of partner that I'm looking for.
Thank you, Miguel.
From the city of Oxnard.
Robert, same question to you. What will you look for in a new city manager?
Not to repeat everything that's been said, but everything that Miguel and Navarro said, they both say good qualities of the individual. The number one thing that I look for in a person is how he works with others. And if he can work with others, then he can build a team. Or she. Anyway, one or the other. They can build a team. And that's what we need here. We need somebody who is strong in leadership. Now, as far as the council, as opposed to the city manager, he is going to have to respond and work with the council 100% of the time, in my opinion, not his own agenda. And that's another thing that another time, the agendas that are on the table up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, same question. What are you looking for in the new city manager? And I probably should have used the word micromanage. How do you get away from a city council micromanaging a city manager? What are his duties? What are the council's?
Well, first of all, what I'm looking for more than anything else is a straight shooter. I want someone who's going to be able to tell me, hey, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to find out for you. I don't want to be BS'd. I think that for us to have a successful city manager, we need to give them clear goals. What I've observed in this city is that the city council is not managing the city manager. The city manager is managing the city council. The city council needs to be the one that sets the goals and basically sets the course. My problem is that too often city manager will present something at the last possible minute. They won't offer you choices for staff reports and what the options are. And frankly, That's not a good city manager. A good city manager offers you choices, alternatives, tells you what the strengths and weaknesses of competing proposals.
Thank you. Lawrence, we'll wrap up with you. Same question about the city manager.
I look for somebody that's rather boring. I don't want anybody who's going to give me a wind up my skirt, so to speak. I want somebody who's going to be straightforward and plain. Preferably somebody local. I don't want a city manager who will spend 18 months just to learn what's going on in the city. I concur with the fact that somebody that we hire should be local. We have several people who run for office before. We also have former city employees who are all well qualified to be manager. Again, I don't want the wheel reinvented. I want somebody who's going to be honest with me and take direction. Many times, city council gives direction to the city manager, and the direction is ignored. Sometimes city managers post numbers on a chart and show nice arrows, and city council says, "Oh, great, those are nice arrows. Hey, I like what you have to say." We need to have the information presented to us in a clear, concise manner, not the last second, the PowerPoint presentations that are presented at the last minute.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. And how about a round of applause for these 5 challenges? Okay, gentlemen, we'll ask you to please take your things and exit off, and then we'll be bringing up our next one. And don't go away. We'll be back with our city council, our last segment here in just a moment.
You're right.
You notice I've been replaced on the signs. Okay, I'd like to do a shout out to thank Tom and the rest of the staff at Pacifica for helping us with everything. We have 9 people that, that's fine, let's give them applause for doing that. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. There are 9 people who are running for city council seats. We thought it was complicated earlier, it gets a little more complicated now because each one is running for a particular seat. So starting closest to me, we have Carrie Kreider. She is running for the Bert Perello seat of Peace Recall. Next to her, there's Ambrosio and Francine. They are running for the Carmen Ramirez seat if she's recalled. And then we have John Daniel Angel, wow, it's been a long night, and Miguel. They are running for the seat held by Oscar Madrigal. So we will still go round robin and do all that, but I wanted to introduce you. 2 of them were unable to make it. Al Velasquez was unable to be here tonight, and Enrique Patrice was not able to be here. We do give any candidate the opportunity to send a statement, and so at this time I'll read the statement for Enrique Patrice. He sent one in, and then we'll begin with Carrie. Again, it's 1 minute, and then 1 minute for answers. So this is from Enrique Patrice. Good evening, voters. I'm on government-related travel until next week, and I'm sorry I'm not able to meet and greet all of you. My name is Enrique Patrice, a candidate to replace Councilman Madrigal on May 1st. I was raised in Oxnard and attended Channel Islands High School. I received my AA degree from Ventura College and received my BA degree from UCSB. And finally, my Master's of Science in Public Administration from Cal State University, Los Angeles. I want to represent all of you in the council so that the only decisions I vote for benefit you and your families. You, the voters, know best what is best for you. And if you opposed a rate increase, the incumbent should have listened to you and not to his own wishes and desires. I respectfully ask for your vote. I promise all of you that I will never lie to you. Thank you and God bless. That was the statement of Enrique Patrice. We'll now begin with Carrie Kreider. She is running for Bert Carello's seat. 1 minute, Carrie.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here today.
Yes.
I'm Carrie Kreider. I've lived here in Oxnard for over 21 years. I can tell you it's my fault. I'm a mom of two and a foster mom of two and a wife to a Gulf War veteran. I specialize in small business management and helping small businesses to grow and thrive, and with an emphasis on customer retention. I'm running for city council because I believe that this beautiful city that has been grossly mismanaged and neglected. Ms. Ramirez tells us that, it's been, we're suffering from decisions of councils from 15 years ago, but what she's not telling you is that she has been on that council for over 9 years of those 15 years, and many of them have. So it's time for replacement. It's time to get new blood in the game. This council's forgotten that you, the people, are their boss. And I understand that. I want to represent you, and I will be your voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Ambrosio.
Yes, I'm Ambrosio Casanova, and I would like to be your councilman, and also to make sure that we are fair and that we are open for you, just like the rules of your general rules of ethics, right, and practices. You have to be open to the people. You have to be a leader, right? And I have also organizational management. I have two associates, my bachelor's, my master's, and hopefully soon I'll finish my doctorate in organizational management. And I want to be a good leader for you. I am a leader with the military. I've served my country, and I want to serve you, the Oxnard family. And like I said, always, together we cannot be defeated. Yeah, unidos no nos pueden vencer. So.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Francine Castanon.
Hello, my name is Francine Katzmann. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on. There's a couple other people that have not been thanked. Bob Allen for continual coverage of this event and previous events and other events that he's done. And Dan and Barbara Finito, who have covered the city events, covered everything tirelessly. Thank you for being here and thank you for doing this. I've decided to run for council because I'm frustrated with some of the services we're not receiving in South Oxnard. For 5 years, I've been advocating as a neighborhood chair for them. I'm just kind of tired of not being listened to, and I've had enough, and so have my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is John Reagan.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Reagan. Lifelong resident of the city of Oxnard, graduate of Santa Clara High School, graduate of Dominican University, political science and history. I was 4 years on the library commission, which is a great time. I've also been vice chair of the Carriage Square Neighborhood Council for many years. I've also been past exalted ruler of the Oxnard Elks Lodge. So I've had experience working in different areas like managing money, things like that. I think that the reason I want to run is because I'd like to give something back to the city, which has given me a lot. It gave me a great childhood and a great life, and I want to return that, and I want to work for the people of Oxnard so we can preserve the best in this town and improve the rest.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Daniel Chavez.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak with you guys today. My name is Daniel Chavez Jr., a born and raised resident of the city of Oxnard. I grew up in South Oxnard and continue to live in South Oxnard. I have a 2-year-old daughter, 2-month son, and a beautiful, supportive wife. I would not have been here today or even engaged in our city back in 2015 without the support of my family. It's very important that I put my family first, as well as every other Oxnard resident in the city. When I began to be engaged in our city council's business, I engaged with our city staff, our residents, and local organizations. After the 2016 election, I didn't disappear like many candidates tend to do after they lose. I stuck around, I continue to be engaged, I continue to learn about the workings of our cities because that's what's important. three characteristics that our current council member, the one that we're challenging, lacks integrity, honesty, and commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Angel Garcia.
Hello, everyone. I would just like to thank each and every one of you for attending today and for participating in democracy. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this great event. I would like to start by saying that I grew up in Rose Park. I've been a lifelong resident and lived here my entire life, and I will not change that anyway. I'm grateful for living in the city. I have learned many things while growing up here, and I wish to give back to the city that has given me so much. I want to bring honesty and transparency. I want to make sure that you, the voters' voices are heard, and make sure that each and every one of your interests are met. I would like to say that as I stand here before you, I want to be your elect, and as your elect, I will represent. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last candidate is Miguel Martinez.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Miguel Martinez. I am your candidate for Oxnard City Council. I'm born and raised here in Oxnard. I went to Blackstock Junior High School, went to Channel Islands High School. I'm also a military veteran. I'm a construction manager, so I've done many construction crews. One thing I would like to say is change has to come to Oxnard. I know a lot of you are probably upset about what's going on, the mismanagement, the misappropriations of funds. A lot of you are angry. So a lot of us, like I said, like myself, I'm down here. The reason I'm here because I want change in Oxnard. I don't want to go down this road anymore. So we need to send a message to the city council. Enough is enough. We want change. We need to get them out.
Thank you. We'll start with Ambrosio for the first question. And if you are elected, you're going to deal with some pretty important issues. So let's hear what your plans are to deal with things such as homelessness, the downtown, supporting businesses, dealing with possibly decommissioning the power plants. See what you can get in there in then 1 minute. And bring that microphone close.
All in one. Yes, as far as the...
pull the microphone a little closer, Ambrosio.
As far as the homelessness, we can also convert some of the property that we have, that we can convert into homes for the homeless, and also monitor, and be supervised, so to make sure we have no problems, and also the crime. And for the plant, when was it built? It was built back in the 1950s, so they're telling us that during this whole time, where's the maintenance? Where is the maintenance for this? Where the money has come from? Where the money has gone? So on that plant like that, we need to find out where all this money has been gone to maintain this plant. How is it being kept? And also to fix the city, the store, let's clean it up a little bit. Let's clean up the front of it. Let's give them, the business owners, some ownership there as far as, making it safe.
Thank you. Francine, same questions to you as far as what are some of your plans if you're elected to deal with things like downtown, homelessness, supporting business, et cetera.
So the biggest, So the biggest thing is some of our infrastructure. As far as the sewer plant, the water, the Army Corps of Engineers has done superb jobs on getting things like that done. At any time, anyone could have called them to coming to do a consult and have that reviewed. We need to have checks and balances. We can't go offering services when we don't know what we have. We have to have our checks and balances so we know we have enough money to fund those programs, not fund those programs, things like that. Intergovernmental relations. That's a thing we seem to be lacking in Oxnard. We don't always play well with others. I have an Army background. I'm a U.S. Army quartermaster. That means logistics. That means I have to make things move whether I want to or not. And that's a skill and a talent I plan on bringing to the city.
Thank you. And next, John, same question.
Well, this is a very tricky, not tricky, but very complex issues that you're talking about right here. I don't know if I could give exact answers of how it would solve homelessness or how to fix downtown or the power plant and what to do for safety within the city. I think that I do a little bit more background check on any of this stuff. I could actually come up with solutions for it. I know in businesses, I know we definitely need to change the permit system. We need to make it, you want people to come to Oxnard.
not to be turned away when they go to try to get a permit to open a business in their town. I think it's important that, I don't know the power plants, there's a lot of questions about that. It's a crazy thing out there, these on our beaches. I don't know if they're needed. I don't think they should be here, actually, to be honest with you. And I think that downtown, I love downtown. We're on the right track. It is getting better. After it died in the 60s, it's back better than it's been. We have a long way to go on that. And I think that we could find solutions for that.
Thank you. Daniel, same question. What will you do if you're elected to deal with some of these major issues?
So this is actually a really good thing, because when you all exit out tonight, be sure to visit my table. There's a flyer there, has an 8-point plan that's going to be addressing many of these critical issues that the city of Oxnard faces on a daily basis. Homelessness, public safety, businesses, infrastructure, and how do we move forward as a city. Homelessness, I presented to the Homeless Commission. I've talked with our housing director and pretty much told them straight out, the best way for us to be actually addressing the homeless crisis is not this continuation of the winter warming shelter. It's a Band-Aid method, and every time when we hit the month of March, our city is begging for more money to be able to keep it to the end of the month. We need transitional housing that provides medical care, mental and behavioral health services, job training, financial management, and an opportunity to move into permanent housing. That's what we need to address our homelessness, not the winter warming shelter. Public safety, last year it was reported that the city had an increase of 25% in violent crimes for homicides. That needs to change.
Thank you, Daniel. Angel, same question to you as far as how you'll deal with some of these major issues.
First of all, I would like to make it easier for businesses to invest into the city. However, it is important that these businesses have the interest of the people of Oxnard, and it is important that we cannot allow just any business to come into the city. Secondly, addressing the homeless issue. This is not just a city issue, however, it is also a statewide issue. Currently, California is going through a major housing crisis currently, one of the worst we faced in decades. So it is important that we address this issue head on. Currently, the housing community has came up with a $1 million audit, which is great news. So this is going to help address the homeless committee as well. Also, I would also like to make sure that the Measure O funding is used where it needs to be. The city used that money to address the budget. However, that money belongs to the police officers so they can make sure that they can keep this city safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Miguel, same question to you about your policies if you're elected to deal with things like the economy, business, homelessness, downtown.
Well, the way I see it, ladies and gentlemen, Oxnard needs to be more business friendly. Take away the bureaucratic red tape. Like when you want to get a dance permit, if you open up a business and you want to get a dance permit, it costs you $4,000 just to get a dance permit. That's just outrageous. Like I said, the city of Oxnard needs to be more friendly towards the businesses. If you want to open up businesses, get rid of the red tape that you need to try to open up the business. And concerning the homeless, the state of California is in a crisis concerning the homelessness, all the way from San Francisco, Los Angeles, Irvine. One thing we do need to act on, though, we have county services that can help people. We have a lot of veterans. One thing I do want to act is an ordinance, because I don't want us, like Irvine is going through it right now, a tent city. I don't want that going on here in Oxnard. So at some point we need to enact some kind of an ordinance that people just can't go ahead and start popping up tents everywhere on Oxnard Boulevard, Saviors Road, Ventura Road. I don't want that happening here in Oxnard.
Thank you. Carrie, we'll wrap up with you on this question.
Well, the first thing that I want to do is when I get in there is study the city's finances and implement a sound and effective city budget. And stop the current practice of intra-fund borrowing. I would also like to immediately begin proper and quality city infrastructure and maintenance. The roads that are being repaired right now are only being with a short-term repair. They look kind of pretty, but they're only going to last for 5 years. So we want to do stuff right. We want to get it done and do it correctly, and we want to do it now. I also want to create jobs by enticing businesses to stay in Oxnard and to relocate to Oxnard, incentivizing builders to build here and rebuild, create family-friendly places for people to shop and to spend their time, that they can entertain themselves. But most importantly,
I'm going to listen to the vote of the people. I'm going to listen to what our citizens have to say.
Thank you, Carrie. Francine, we're going to start with you. I'm going to ask all of you candidates if you can maybe go a little bit quicker, get down to 45 seconds, then I could get one more question in. But we'll still give you a minute if you take it, but hopefully. Francine, question to you. This is what the whole recall started with, was the wastewater hikes. If you're elected to the council, will you fulfill the promise of Measure M and repeal the rate hikes back to January 2016? And if so, and it turns out there's a shortfall, how will you make up for it?
So the voters voted 72%, so I will honor that. To repeal if allotted, given their current credit situation, it says you cannot repeal the rates. So that's something that would have to legally be reviewed. As far as the shortfall, there are other things, certificates of participation, there's other funding options that can be done to fulfill those gaps. And that's kind of a frustration I've had. The city staff hasn't looked at those options and presented them to council. And I sometimes wonder, and I have said this publicly at council, was council given the best option? Our previous city manager wasn't that great. And he and I had very interesting conversations about that. We'll kind of leave it at there. And I don't believe council was always given the best choice. They were given a bag of rotten tomatoes and told to make something with it. And now all of us are paying for it. It didn't have to come to this. There were other options we could have done, but we're here now, and now we've got to make lemonade out of lemons.
Thank you. John, same question to you. If you were elected, will you fulfill the promise of Measure M and repeal the rate hikes? How would you make up for any shortfall?
Well, as I stated before when I was interviewed by the Star, the Ventura County Star, I said that I would have probably voted for it in the beginning, but once Measure M passed, I would have rescinded my vote on it. I think that it doesn't have, the rate increase doesn't have to be as high as what they're giving to us. And it's kind of, I don't know where Carmen I live in, we live in the same neighborhood, and my bill is $209 for 2 people. And that's not what it was before, so I don't know what the percentage of that went up, but there's other ways to fund that. There's many, many different ways. It's like working down the budget, finding ways in which to take the money that's in the budget, redirecting it into other areas, and maybe to take care of the wastewater problem.
Thank you. And Daniel, same question to you. Will you vote to repeal the rate hikes?
So this question's a little confusing because of the fact that the rates were repealed. This is why our city council went ahead and did new rate studies. That's how we ended up getting the 35% with the 5.25% over the 5 years. The original rates was that a 35%, then it was going to increase to a 10%, then increase to another, I believe, 18%. The rates were repealed. It was just put in a new new 218 process went into effect. Now, do I believe that the council made the right decisions when they went ahead with this process? No. The consultant said by year 3, we would be able to meet bond obligations by year 3 with the rates that we have right now. Our rate should have been 35% and 5.25% for 3 years, or 35% and 2.5% for 5 years. We should have implemented an ordinance.
Thank you. And Angel, same question to you about Measure M.
It is important that as elected officials that we respect the wishes of the people of Oxnard. The majority of the people of Oxnard voted to repeal that race. And so it is our duty to respect the wishes of you, the voters of Oxnard. And in order to make sure this works, we have to manage the budget correctly to make sure that we move those funds needed to repair that wastewater system. Now, I'm not going to disregard the issue. It needs to be fixed. It tremendously does. However, you, the people, are given an option, and the council did not respect that option. It is important that we as elected officials work together and make sure that we find a compromise with you, the people of Oxnard, so we can make sure we can manage the budget correctly to address these issues.
Thank you. Miguel, same question.
Ladies and gentlemen, the city of Oxnard and the mayor have been trying to shove down an 87 wastewater pipe down your throat. 75% of the people from Oxnard voted no against it, and he turned around and tried to tell you no, he knows better than you, and he's trying to give it to you. One thing that I do, we do need a wastewater rate hike, but not 87%. You don't do it to the point where you're hurting people in the pockets, and the majority of the people, you need to listen to the people when they have spoken. That's not how democracy works. You need to listen to the people for what they want. You can come up with some kind of other resolution. Another thing is, your regional users, Huaynimi, CVC Base, Camarillo, Channel Islands Harbor. You need to raise it up, not just on the residential, but all these are called residual users. Those wastewater rate hikes have not been raised up for years, or the commercial district. So I'm saying to you that you don't know this. Port Magoo, Port Hueneme, Camarillo, Channel Islands Harbor, their rates have not been raised up. Ask your city council why that is.
Thank you. Carrie, same question to you. Will you vote to repeal the rate hikes?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that's what the wish of the people is, and that's what we're going to do. Now, having said that, it's not going to be a day one thing that can be accomplished, because the city council has tied our hands by locking us into these bond measures that are credit with the banks, so that we can't reduce the rates. So we have to work on that first, and we'll do that. I will not rest until that is accomplished. And I believe there's others that will be elected that will do the same. And you know, I don't know where Mayor Flynn got his numbers from, but they are not correct. My bill has already gone up over $25 bucket of chicken. It's already past that. So I don't know where his number, and we just got started, right? The rates just got started and the increase. So yes, I will support decreasing the rates and getting this under control.
Thank you. Ambrosio, we'll wrap up with you on this question. Will you vote to repeal the rate hikes?
Yes, and one of the things that I wanted to also mention is by the end of 2020, it'll be up by 87% increase. And that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit for our people to pay, and also, especially if you're living on a budget. Especially if you're living on a budget, it's going to be hard for people. So we have to, again, going back, so the Planks will be spending, what, $74 million on upgrades, maybe? And where's all this money before? Where has it been spent? Has it been diverted to other areas? That's one of the things we need to check on the finance of of our city. Where's this money going to, and who's spending it, and why was it diverted, and why wasn't this plant upgraded as time went on? It has to be maintained. That's maintenance. And now you're telling me I gotta pay for all this when all this other money was gone? No. We gotta find another solution. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Candidates, I'm hoping you can do this in 30 seconds so we can finish on time. It's a quick question. John, we're starting with you. We asked this earlier in the evening. So, do you believe that the incumbent that you're challenging, in your case you are going for Oscar Madrigal's seat, do you feel that he is corrupt or has committed unethical behavior? Or do you believe that he has broken any laws or done anything for personal gain?
Excuse me. To be honest, I don't believe Oscar Madrigal has committed any crimes, things like that. The reason I think that the reason I'm running against him is because I think I have a much better sense of what the city of Oxnard needs, since I've worked for the city before. I've also worked for the federal government and the state government. And with my background running the Elks Lodge, I have a pretty good thing with numbers. So I don't think Oscar's broken any laws.
Thank you. And Daniel, same question to you. You're also running for Oscar Madrigal's seat. Do you feel like he's committed any crimes, or are there other issues that make you feel need to be addressed and he needs to be recalled?
So I just had a quick question. Is this a minute, or are you putting...
I'm asking you so we can finish on time, but I will let you go a minute if you have to.
Oh, okay. I was just wanting to make sure.
All right, well, we'll do 30 seconds. Moderator prerogative here. So Daniel and the rest of you, if you could do it in 30 seconds, give us your quick feel about why you're challenging Oscar and if you feel that he is, why he deserves to be recalled.
So the way that I see it is that this is a person that ran for office multiple times, disappeared. This is a person that on the VC Star candidate profile in 2016 listed none for any convictions or pleas or bankruptcies. 2018, none for convictions, pleas, or bankruptcies. But yet in 2012, 2013, 2014, listed that he had a DUI in 2009 and convicted in 2010. That is poor judgment, that is no integrity, that's no honesty in there.
Thank you. Angel, same question to you as far as your reasons for running against Oscar, and if you feel that he has done things on the council for personal gain or committed any crimes.
Councilmember Madrigal, I have no quarrel with him. However, I feel that I can do a better job in addressing the needs of the people. To begin with, he did not honor you, the voters' vote, and it's important that you have elected officials that respects your wishes. And that is why I feel I can do a better job than Councilmember Madrigal.
Thank you very much. And Miguel, same question to you. You're also challenging for the Oscar Madrigal seat if he's recalled.
Well, concerning Oscar Madrigal, he's a nice guy. You don't really want to throw mud at anybody. But I know I can do a better job. I'm a construction manager. When the main decisions come to be made, I'm there to do it. I'm here to tell you what situation that we're in and how we're going to get out of it. I'm not going to code it. I'm very honest, very truthful, and very straightforward. So I'm not going to sit there and candy code anything. I'm going to tell you what it is that we need to get out of. So that's how I approach this right here. So like I said, I know I can do a better job than here. So I'm asking for your support. Because our people are angry here in the city of Oxnard, and it's time for change.
Thank you, Miguel. Terry, you are challenging for Bert Perello's seat if he's recalled. Do you feel that he's committed any crimes or committed any unethical behavior?
Well, you know, I think Bert Perello's a decent guy. I think he means well. I don't think he's knowingly committed any crime. I think he's been misinformed on many things within the council by the city staff and others. But, as I've said before, anytime you do not honor the vote of the people, that is corruption. So yes, he needs to be recalled.
Thank you. Ambrosio, you're challenging for Carmen Ramirez's seat if she is recalled. What is your views on Carmen's behavior, if you think she's committed any crimes or committed anything unethical?
No, I do not. The only thing is, I believe that what's going on is they're not informing the community. They get stagnant in there, and we need new blood in there. We need new blood to show the way, lead, and that's what I can do for the city of Oxnard. I've been with them here 20 years, so we need some changes, and with new blood, we can have it made, and we are a team all together. We're a big family.
Thank you. Francine, we'll wrap up the evening with you, and you are also challenging for Carmen Ramirez's seat. What is your views on her behavior and if she's done anything unethical or criminal?
So my views on all 5 of the council that are up there is that any time any one of them could have requested Union Bank, who is their bondholder, to come forward and tell us exactly from the horse's mouth what needed to be done in regards to the rate increase. Not the consultant, not the consultant's consultant, not the city manager, from the horse's mouth. And on several times I had asked that. I had come to council, done my 3 minutes and said, why isn't Union Bank here? Why isn't Mitsubishi Bank here? Telling us from the horse's mouth.
Thank you. I have a couple of announcements, but first, how about a round of applause for these 7 candidates? Thank you all. So we're very glad that you all came out tonight. Again, want to thank Bob Allen and kadytv.net, where you can view this. We cannot, the League of Women Voters is a nonprofit, and we really can't do this without the volunteering efforts of our many members. So tonight we have Pat Essick, who you met, led us in the pledge. We had at our registration table, Pat and Carol. Cheryl was helping organize over on that side. Barbara and Betsy, who were helping with the timing. And I'm also a member of the League. Encourage anyone to become a member of the League. And I don't know if we have a donation cup outside, but if we do, we welcome any little contributions. But I want to give a round of applause to all of our volunteers tonight, please. And again, there was handouts when you came in from the City of Oxnard, sample ballots. Reminder, you have to find out where your polling station is. If you vote absentee, you have to put a stamp on the absentee ballot when you return it. Thank you all very much. I'm David Marin. Good evening.